Hi everybody, I'm just finishing up here with this garment that I've called Ancestor Country. I will be discussing on my blog in the next few days why I've chosen that name. Essentially it's a tribute to the Aboriginal people whose country I live in nowadays, the Kamilaroi people. And I'm going to discuss that more fully in a blog post. In the meantime, as you can see, I started out a few days ago showing you a video of how I began with this garment with the hand painting and a few little lines that I used to create this motion, this piece of textile art. And I didn't really cover how I went through developing it. So I've jumped from the beginning right to the end. And at the moment, as you see, I'm just touching up a little bit of this fluorescent pink here in the middle. I really like this part here where there's this great streak of that fluorescent pink, and I wanted to bring it down into this section here somewhat more. So I'm just doing a little hand painting around the appliques that have been made in that area to bring that pink down. And I'm just thinking about bringing it down here into this lower part, and in the next few minutes when I've finished doing this extra bit of detailing in here, I will discuss some of the technique, some of the textile art technique that I've used on this garment in its development. Now I have to apologise that some of my commentary lately is probably, I think, getting less and less fluid and flowing from how I started out a few months ago, and I've started out awkwardly enough then because I'm not reading anything pre-prepared. I'm just kind of riffing without any notes, and it's awkward because I'm not a really accomplished public speaker. I do find it pretty challenging, and often I'm doing stuff at the same time as I'm talking, so it tends to be hard for me to do two things well at once. So I have to apologise for the rather awkward commentary on this video, and I think my last one was pretty clumsy too, but I'm afraid you'll just have to deal with the reality of how I do things here, which is not in a very accomplished way. Okay, so I'm just getting through some of that detail, bringing a bit of colour into these other sections, and in the next few minutes we'll have a bit of a chat about some of the technique I've used here. The hand painting in the beginning stages sort of defined the areas, made them into distinct, defined blocks, areas that I have embellished. I had no particular plan as ever. I always work in a very intuitive way. I think if I was to describe my approach to textile art, define it, surrealism and automatic painting would probably be the most accurate way of defining how I approach stuff. Very intuitively, spontaneously. On occasion I might have a pretty clear idea, but that would be more rare and uncommon than is typical. Okay. God, I love this fluorescent pink. It is fantastic. And painted onto this orange linen, it doesn't lose any of its brightness. It's just great. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to do this little section over here. It's a really hot day in Murrurundi again. It's getting up to 35 degrees Celsius outside, and I'm painting this ink undiluted directly onto the dry fabric, so it's drying out pretty quick. Yeah, I should have put something to protect that fabric under there, but you know, like I said, I'm not a person that's obsessed about perfection. This is hand painted, handmade. Okay, I've got some smears of paint coming through there. I knew it would happen. I did think I'd put something, a protective layer in there, and then once the paint was on the brush, I just wanted to put the paint on the fabric, and I straight away forgot. And I'm using this wet chucks cloth here to try to get some of the smears off the yellow. Not very effective. Anyway, that's it. Ta-da! Done. Okay, just going to hit it real quick. Whew, that is very unpleasant. I'm trying to keep it cool in this room, in my workroom here. At the moment, it's still a relatively bearable 28 degrees, but I probably just raised the temperature a couple of degrees with that. I don't have any aircon in the studio. I have a fan going in the background, which I apologise for last time because it makes a bit of a buzzing and clattering sound. Here we have this garment. It's my PDF pattern, the Grecian tunic, and instead of putting the facings on the neck and the arms or put the sleeves in, I've created a petticoat that's been stitched in and bagged out, turned out, so that the stitching on the underside of the garment, which I think is pretty tidy, pretty clean anyway, is actually hidden between the layer of the petticoat and the top. This is the back. I've actually put some panels in the side there which aren't in the original pattern. That's the back. Now, there's a lot of embroidery on here, or, well, machine embroidery. It's not really hand embroidery. The only piece of hand stitching I've done on here is to put this around this neckline here, where I've stitched this piece of cord on by hand to create that little bit of detail around there. This is the cord stitched on by hand around the neckline. Okay, so there is some of my pressure plate printing on here. This print here, and it's shown in various places around the garment. These ones on the back here, these are from pressure plate printing, when I place that plate under there and I roll over it with a paint-filled sponge brush, and I get those very crude markings. They're not at all clean. They're very spontaneous. And another nice bit of that up there on just below the neckline at the back. Okay, so that's the pressure plates that I make from the polypropylene or whatever it is, that rubbery stuff from yoga mats under there. And also the spot detail is created in the same way from another pressure plate I had with the spots on. Okay, these are these yellow streaks, these yellow lines. That's a piece of heavens. Where are we? Oh, it's at home at the moment. Okay, it's some strips of knit that are stitched on thus. And of course the fun thing about the knit is it can be bent and twisted really easily. Okay, yeah, so these are appliqued on, and on the edges I've stitched some yarn to accentuate the edges of these appliques. Okay, so I will give you a walk around tour on my camera within the next few days, hanging on a dress model. But this was just a little bit of information and some more close-up details of the surface. Thank you very much, and I'm off now, and I'm going to start a new video probably of hand painting on another piece of cloth.